jewels beneath the night sky. Inside the gleaming office building that towered over downtown, a young woman stood clutching her worn-out bag. Her blouse was slightly damp, her shoes scuffed from rushing through puddles, and her eyes, though weary, still held a spark of dignity. Her name was Emma Carter. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was someone who had been fighting battles the world didn't see, struggles of poverty, of rejection, of trying to prove her worth in places where her voice was often ignored. Tonight was supposed to be her chance, an interview at the top floor of Harrison Enterprises, the empire built by one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, Alexander Harrison. But the interview hadn't gone the way she'd hoped. The panel of executives had judged her the moment she walked in, her clothes too plain, her resume lacking Ivy League polish, her experience limited to working double shifts at diners, tutoring kids and running errands for her ailing mother. To them, she wasn't CEO assistant material. When the meeting ended, Emma forced a polite smile, gathered her things, and whispered to the receptionist as she passed, "It's okay, I'll go." But those words didn't just vanish into the air. Sitting silently at the far end of the room, observing behind the glass wall, was Alexander Harrison himself. Known for his sharp mind, cold demeanor, and ruthless business sense, he was the last man anyone expected to care about a struggling girl. Yet in that moment something stirred inside him. He stepped out, his tall figure commanding the room. His voice, deep and firm, cut through the whispers. "No, it's not okay." The executives froze. Emma turned, her eyes wide. Alexander looked directly at her, and for the first time there was no judgment in anyone's eyes. Only a question. Who was this girl who had already decided she wasn't good enough? Instead of letting her leave, Alexander asked Emma to sit back down. The board members exchanged confused glances, but when the CEO gave an order, no one dared to argue. "Tell me," Alexander said, leaning forward, "why did you even apply for this job?" Emma hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. But then, something in his tone encouraged her honesty. "Because," she said softly, "I need to believe my life can be more than what it is right now. My mother is sick. The bills keep piling up. I've worked every job I could find just to survive. But I know I can do more. I know I can learn. I just need someone to give me a chance." Emma expected to be dismissed again. Instead, Alexander nodded slowly, then dismissed the entire panel of executives with a wave of his hand. He kept her in the room. That night he made a decision that shocked even himself. "You're hired." At first, working under Alexander Harrison felt impossible. He was demanding, sharp-tongued, and had no tolerance for mistakes. Emma stumbled, forgot schedules, mixed up files, and endured glares from his senior staff. Some mocked her behind her back, whispering that she wouldn't last a week. But Emma was different. She didn't quit. Every evening after everyone left, she stayed behind, studying reports, teaching herself business terms, practicing presentations, and organizing his workload until it was flawless. Slowly, her effort showed. Alexander noticed his days running smoother, his meetings more efficient, his stress lighter. But it wasn't just her work ethic that caught his attention. It was her heart. She greeted every employee with kindness, remembered birthdays, and left little notes of encouragement on people's desks. She even started a small fund where employees could secretly contribute to help struggling coworkers. To Emma, every person mattered, something Alexander had long forgotten in his world of profits and numbers. One evening, after a particularly brutal meeting with investors, Alexander returned to his office furious. He slammed a folder on the desk, pacing like a storm. Emma, sitting quietly with her notes, didn't flinch. Instead, she said softly, "Careful, sir. You might break something." He stopped. For the first time in years, a laugh escaped his lips. It startled him. He hadn't realized how long it had been since he'd truly laughed. Alexander began to see her not just as an assistant, but as someone who challenged him in ways no one else dared. She spoke up when she thought he was wrong. She reminded him that employees were human beings, not just assets. And slowly, he found himself opening up about his past, how he had built his empire by shutting off emotions, how he had lost friends and relationships along the way, how loneliness haunted even the richest of penthouses. Emma listened. She didn't judge. She simply said, "Strength isn't in building walls, Mr. Harrison. It's in knowing when to let someone in." But not everyone was pleased with Emma's presence. Jealous executives plotted to push her out. They fabricated mistakes, forged documents, and even staged a failed project to blame her. Emma, devastated, thought she had lost everything. When Alexander confronted her, she whispered again, tears in her eyes, "It's okay. I'll go." But this time Alexander stood taller than ever. "No, it's not okay," he declared in front of the entire board. He revealed the truth, exposing the lies of his executives. One by one, those who betrayed her were removed. Emma, instead of losing her job, was promoted. Her courage and honesty now the foundation of his trust. As months passed, Emma's role in Alexander's life grew deeper. She became not only his most trusted partner at work, but also the anchor he leaned on in personal storms. He began to see the world through her eyes, simpler, kinder, more meaningful. One evening at a company charity event, Alexander stood on stage thanking his employees. But when he looked at Emma in the crowd, his voice broke slightly. "She came into my life when I thought I had everything," he said, "and reminded me that without compassion, without people, wealth means nothing. She's taught me more than any boardroom ever could." The audience applauded, but Emma's eyes filled with tears. Years later, people still told the story of Emma Carter, the girl who almost whispered herself out of an opportunity, the girl who thought she wasn't good enough until someone said, "No, it's not okay." Her journey became a symbol, not just in the company, but across the city, a reminder that kindness and resilience can change even the coldest of hearts. And as for Alexander and Emma, their bond grew into something more profound than either had expected. Not just CEO and assistant, but partners. Two people who taught each other that life's greatest fortune isn't measured in money, but in the courage to care.